Man, listen, who would have thought this weekend we would have got the weekend we just got, right? Craziness in college football, right? And who would have thought it would have been National Signing Day for college coaches, right? And maybe this is a new thing, a new theme that's going to happen going forward, right? Especially with the way the sport is going. Maybe the last week of the season before we get into conference championship week is officially College Coaching National Signing Day. Man, it's been a crazy couple hours. We're here to talk about it. Welcome back to Athletes Forum Podcast. You think about everything that just happened, right? And all the midst of all the craziness that just happened last week with James Franklin, the Virginia Tech. The SEC might as well have had the craziest shakeup out of all the conferences, right? LSU made a massive move. We all know about that. Florida finally landed their guy, or is it their guy? Auburn kind of reloaded, and the ripple effects that's going to happen when it comes down to the Penn States, the UCLAs, the Michigan States, and we're here to talk about it, all right? Now, let's not waste any time. Let's kind of dive into things, right? And we're going to start down in the boot, right? And we're going to start down in LSU, right? Down in Baton Rouge. LSU hired Lane Kiffin, and it became literally the headline of the entire coaching cycle, all right? Whether you love him or you can't stand him, is really one thing certain, that Kiffin wins in the SEC, right? Lane Kiffin has a pedigree of winning in the SEC, right? And you think about everything that he's been able to do and everything that he's been able to accomplish, at Ole Miss, right? There's no doubt about what he's been able to accomplish, right? He recruits, he develops, right? He develops quarterbacks when you think about that, right? He creates explosive offenses. That was weird, right? And LSU is really betting big that he's going to fix what Brian Kelly really wasn't able to accomplish down at LSU, right? So what are you getting from Lane Kiffin, right? Well, LSU they're getting one of the best play callers in the game right now, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? The SEC, you think about Kirby, you think about Saban and what those defensive-minded coaches have been able to do. Well, Lane Kiffin's coming from a different perspective with one of the most elite offensive minds in college football, right? You see what he's been able to do and turn Ole Miss around, right? The amount of, in the last 3 years, the double-digit win seasons that he's had, right? It's a talent upgrade. It's a talent upgrade in regards to LSU, right? You think about, at LSU and what that program has already had. You think about NFL receivers, stud defensive linemen, right? You think about elite speed everywhere. Imagine what Lane Kiffin is going to do with that talent. That talent, top 10 talent, is the floor every season at LSU. You think about something he had to do at Ole Miss, and that's went through the portal, right? The king of, NIL power, and now the king of the portal becomes a dangerous combination when you think about it. Kiffin's one of the best when it comes to transfer portal recruits in the country, but Ole Miss really didn't have LSU level type NIL, especially donor support or reaching, what LSU can reach. And this is one of the main reasons why he left, right? He mentioned it wasn't about the money. He mentioned, at LSU, well, he didn't mention it, but at LSU, the NIL money is bigger. The brand is stronger. The recruiting backyard in Louisiana is deeper than what it is at Ole Miss, right? Now, if he's able to dominate the portal at Ole Miss, imagine what he's able to do to add to the foundation, the backyard talent that he's going to be able to get down at LSU, right? So, you can look at this in a couple ways. Also, LSU finally gets their swagger back. This is a coach unlike Les Miles. This is a coach unlike Brian Kelly. This is a coach unlike Nick Saban. The closest you could probably compare him to in regards to like quirkiness would probably be Coach Ed O, right? This is a totally different opposite side of the spectrum from what they got with Coach Kelly. Not to mention, he dominates rivalries, right? And LSU needs that right now. They need to win those. They need to get back on the board when it comes to beating Arkansas, when it comes to beating Alabama, right? And beating their rivals. When it comes to putting the fear in Georgia, right? Owning Mississippi State, right? LSU needs someone who could literally punch back at these schools, the Texas, the Alabamas, the Oklahomas, the Georgias. Kiffin gives that punch. Kiffin gives that punch that is needed. Not to mention, we talked about his development. What he's been able to do with quarterbacks has been game-changing. Think about Jackson Dart, Matt Corral, right? Blake Sims, Jake Coker, Chris Robinson, down the FAU days. The FAU days, right? Give him any type of 4- or 5-star at LSU, he's going to turn him into a superstar. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Austin Simmons transfers from Ole Miss and joins him at LSU, all right? Again, LSU immediately becomes a playoff contender. That's the floor expectation. There's no rebuild. There's not a year or project. There's not a year to slow down, right? It's his playoff berth, SEC West title, top 10 offense, transfer portal overhaul. Kiffin needs to make that immediate impact now, and that's going to be the expectation. Now, this instantly makes LSU the most entertaining team in college football, and that's no hyperbole, right? Lane Kiffin, the type of pedigree he brings, right, and LSU becomes must watch, right? They're gonna become most watched, especially when they play Ole Miss, right, down at the Grove, right, and what that's gonna look like, right? This is gonna be interesting to see how this all pans out, right? LSU gets Lane Kiffin to be their next head coach, right? Really, really huge hire. It's been the top name in the coaching cycle outside James Franklin, right? So what's the biggest storyline here, right? Kiffin inherits kind of the SEC ready talent day one. Tigers still have NFL dudes all over the board. You could literally breathe that LSU air and get a top 10 recruiting class. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now you're adding Kiffin to the mix. We'll see how this all pans out. We will see how this all pans out, but shout out to Lane Kiffin. The biggest question is, and going forward, is going to be, our coach is going to be allowed to finish the season if they take a different job. I don't really think it matters on the level with the way this college football schedule is and the portal, right? A lot of things are going to start changing in college football. So we got to gear up because this could be the start of a trend, a theme that we got to get ready for. And that is in National Signing Day for college coaches last week of the season, right? What's next? What we want to jump into. Remember, it was a crazy, crazy weekend, right? Let's get into my team, the Gators, right? Gators, they hit a reset. We bring in John Summerall, one of the other top hottest names that was out there, right? That's going to be coming to Gainesville. Wasn't the top choice. I think we all know that. John Summerall, the Tulane head coach, has been really quiet in building a powerhouse at Tulane, right? And he knows the expectation that is going to be put on him at Florida. And he knows what previous coaches have done and what they've lacked. Right, he knows Florida tried to get Lane Kiffin, right, and had to settle for John Summerall. But needless to say, we landed the guy. We landed the guy who got substance, right? Summerall's going to bring discipline. He's going to bring development. He's going to bring toughness, especially when it comes to a strong defensive identity. And when you think about Florida Gators and you think about all their national championship teams, whenever that defense has been strong, that team has been good. Right? That team has been good. Now, it's not a splash hire, but it's a smart hire, right? And I was glad we at least able to get this guy, right? Now, a lot of people might have expected the flashy name, but Florida has hired someone that's going to be a builder, right? Not a celebrity, right? Maybe that's not what we need, right? I'm a little gun shy because of everything that's happened when you think about, the McElwains, the Muschamps, the Dan Mullins, the Billy Napier's, right? So I'm more of a taking a wait and see kind of approach with this. But one thing I do know about John Summerall, he's got to bring culture. He's got to bring toughness. He's got to bring discipline, which is what this team needs, right? Development and accountability also, right? Summerall is a proven, really program rebuilder when you think about it, right? He took Tulane, a school with limited resources, and turned them into a consistent winner, something they haven't done since the early 2000s. Let me repeat that. Something Tulane hasn't done since the early 2000s, right? He inherited no NIL advantage, no SEC level type of talent, no recruiting pipeline, no national search buzz, and he still won, right? Imagine what he could do at Florida with Florida athletes, with winning the state. Remember, Cristobal, great recruiter. Who knows what's happening at Florida State, right? We need to get back to winning the state. Imagine what he could do with the facilities, the NIL, the brand of Florida, right? Now, defense is his identity, and defense is what he's going to try to bring back to the Swamp, right? Florida's biggest weakness, really since Dan Mullen era, has been defense. A lack of toughness, bad tackling, no gap discipline. Our DBs haven't been the greatest. And remember, when we've had great DBs, we've had a great defense, right? Kentucky, we all see what happens. They just fired Coach Stoops. We all see what going 1-4 against Kentucky, that's not great. We need a physical mentality. We need NFL-style fronts. We need a heavy emphasis on stopping the run. And Florida is about to get that with John Summerall based on what he's shown he's been able to do. From what I know, it's a player's first coach, right? It doesn't matter in regards to the portal era, right? He's someone that builds strong relationships, has honest communication, right? He has a culture where players have buy into it, right? You think about, again, getting 3-star, 4-star type of talent. Now he's going to inherit a program that could naturally get those 4-star, 5-star type of guys. Remember, we're still the only team with, out of all the college openings, really haven't had any decommitments, right? Now, when you look at the SEC East landscape, it's been dominated by Georgia, right? And then you got Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, okay, inconsistent, right? We don't need to be perfect, but we just need to be able to compete, right? We need some level of stability, right? So John Summerall's going to have his hands full. Now, I'm curious who's the offensive coordinator going to be, because we got to get DJ fixed. We got to get DJ fixed, and that is going to be a huge part of his job, right? What else? He brings some SEC DNA. Before Tulane, Summerall was at Ole Miss. He was at Kentucky, right? He was in Alabama, right? So he knows the type of roster building that is needed, right? The trench work that is needed, the SEC recruiting strategy that is needed, right? Now, we'll see how this all pans out, but John Summerall is going to be able to come here, hopefully provide some long-term stability, right? And hopefully change this program. Hopefully this is not a 2-year experiment, but more of like a 10-year coach, so to say, right? So that's my hope when it comes to John Summerall and what that looks like going forward. But it's going to be are we ready to be patient as Florida fan, right? Because this might not be an instant turnaround. We might have to give it some time. Are we ready to be patient? That's my only question. Next, what else happened this weekend? Auburn got a coach, right? Auburn got a coach. Alex Goulash from University of South Florida, right? From the University of South Florida. Listen, he's leaving South Florida, has SEC ties, Tennessee ties. It's a big swing for the Tigers, right? But he's one of the brightest young guys in the coaching game right now, right? Come from that Josh Heupel system, which comes from that Art Briles system at Auburn, right? Auburn fans, you want excitement, you're going to get that with Alex. Speaking from a Gators fan, trust me, you're going to get that with Alex. Now, what should we know about Alex, right? Auburn just hired kind of one of the most fastest rising offensive minds in the country, right? He's not a household name, just like Summerall's not a household name, but inside the coaching circles, Alex Goulash is well known. He helped Tennessee lead the nation in scoring, change the SEC tempo philosophy, and flip Heupel system into a powerhouse. And that's how he got the South Florida job, and that's how Auburn is going to be going forward, right? Deuce Knight should be happy. This is the perfect system for Deuce Knight. And you kind of think about some of the quarterbacks he's been able to develop along the way, right? You look at these names here, right? He's going to be able to come in and change the biggest elephant in the room, and that's at the quarterback position, right? Now, not to mention, he's going to bring, tempo. He's going to bring spacing. He's going to bring that vertical option passing game that we see at Tennessee, that we used to see at Baylor, right? With the RG3s in the world, right? It's not just going to be, try to run 20-17. He's going to try to put a 40+ on your head, right? 40+ on your head. And he got some swagger too, right? Again, he's another one that's a proven program builder. You see what he just done at USF with no NIL, no depth, a broken culture, one of the longest losing streaks in FBS history, right? And only 2 seasons, a winning team a recruiting destination and one of the fastest offenses in the country. Auburn needs that. They need that rebuild. They need that reset, right? This hire kind of puts pressure now on Auburn administration, right? Because Gulish is young. He's aggressive, right? He's offensively creative. But the question is, will Auburn let him cook, right? To succeed, he's going to need the NIL investment. He's going to need the portal support. He's going to need an improved recruiting infrastructure in order to build this into the vision and what he sees, right? His system's very quarterback friendly. Simple reads, tempo advantages, stress on the linebackers, spacing. This is going to be a quarterback's dream place, and he's going to be able to prove that based on what he's done at Tennessee and USF, right? So now don't expect year one dominance, right? Don't expect year one fireworks, right? But this is a team that's going to be more scoring, more energy, more creative, and a much more modern identity. This is a great fit for Gulish. Auburn, better be ready for the type of personality he's going to get, right? Because he's an up-and-coming genius, right? Offensive mastermind and a culture builder, as we talked about, right? Not to mention he's hungry. He's ascending, right? And he's the most modern coach Auburn has had in the 15-plus years, right? So with that being said, Auburn got a winner. Auburn got somebody that could get the job done potentially. We'll see how it all pans out. But let's just be real, Auburn fans. You're in rebuild mode. You're in rebuild mode. Until you get the quarterback fixed, give it some time. Give it some time. But with Gulish, it's gonna happen. He's proven that it can happen. So just trust that it's gonna happen. All right. Now it's crazy because when you look at the landscape of college football, you look at what the SEC has done this past week. Again, Lane Kiffin, we got Gooding, we got. I didn't even get to Arkansas. The Gators got a guy. LSU got a guy. What a crazy week it really was in the college football field, in the college football landscape, right? Real quick, let's talk about some others real quick. Oklahoma State, they hire Eric Morris from North Texas, right? You're going to get someone, air raid background, strong recruiter, a modern offense, right? Oregon State gets Jamarcus Shepard, dynamic wide receiver coach, right? Who's turning head coach. He's going to bring energy, player first type of guy. Colorado State goes after Jim Mora Jr., has familiarity with the Pac-12 at UCLA. Now he's leaving UConn to come in to coach Colorado State, right? Stanford, Tavita Pritchard comes into play, right? Former Cardinal quarterback, right? Joining Andrew Luck to trying to flip that program around. Arkansas, we think about Ryan Silverfield coming from Memphis, another Memphis coach going to a big-time program. You think about what Florida State, has over there and what Arkansas could potentially look like going forward. So that leaves me with this. What's next for a couple other schools, right? Penn State, we're hearing things like maybe Brian Dable or maybe I forgot Coach Chesney from JNU, right? For some names to look out for, right? There's some other names out there. You think about Brian Kelly. You think about Chip Kelly and what that's going to look like. So we'll see in regards to what comes about there. You still got Gundy. I don't think Gundy's a good match for either Penn State, UCLA, or Michigan State, right? So we'll see what comes out. Chesney, I know, is a big play for UCLA right now. They're entering the Big Ten. They really need a CEO. They really need someone that's going to run that program and really challenge the program to invest in NIL, to get players to compete in the Big Ten. And before we leave, we can't forget about Michigan State. It seems like it's going in the direction of Pat Fitzgerald becoming the next head coach at Penn State. So who is Pat Fitzgerald? Obviously, previous coach at Northwestern. Immediately, he brings a steady leadership, a program identity, and long-term culture building with him. Right. You think about someone, two-time Big Ten champion, multiple 10-win seasons, a program built on toughness, discipline, right, and defense, right? Now imagine what he's going to be able to do at Michigan State. Better recruiting base, better NIL, strong brand, stronger facilities, right? Pat Fitzgerald's walking into a nice little situation if he becomes the next head coach at Michigan State, if not already done, but it sounds like it's going to happen. So we'll see how all this is going to pan out. But it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy in the day and age of college football. I'm excited to see how this all pans out. Locker room, you know how this works. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think, and let's talk it out. But college football is nuts, and I'm here for it.